Okay, good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to the Center for Healthy Living. Corey Walk, Griffin Health. We are streaming live on Facebook tonight. We will try not to capture a lot of your face shots. Everything is streamed from behind you guys. So, this is another edition of our healthy eating series we're doing up at Corey. Tonight we are featuring a savory quinoa, highlighting the benefits of calcium and vitamin D. For June, Griffin has our marketing campaign for June is Men's Health Month. So we're doing a lot of things surrounding men's health. Traditionally, men are lower in vitamin D, and unfortunately, you need vitamin D to absorb the calcium. And Becca, our dietitian, will get into that a little bit during her slide. However, again, for June, different initiatives that Griffin's doing regarding men's health. So you can pop onto our website and take a look and see what we have going on there. Um, Again, we are at Corey Walk, where we try to do a series here where we try to highlight different ways to use nutrition to fight chronic disease. We try to address themes that go inside with seasonal ideas, topics that are hot and trendy right now, and things that we just feel are important to us. Women's health, men's health, diabetes awareness, colorectal cancer, and things of that nature. So, we're going to get started this evening. We have Becca Cretella, our registered dietitian here from Griffin Health. And on my left here, we have Chef Mike Rizzio, who's going to be doing our chef demonstration portion this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Becca. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So, the dynamic duo. So, just a little overview. We're just going to talk about importance of bone health through our lifespan. It's not only at one time; it's our whole life. We have to worry about it. And then common bone-related issues: osteoporosis, fractures, and then bone density loss. So, what is a water-soluble vitamin? These vitamins are able to dissolve in water. They're not stored in the body except for B12. And excess is excreted in our urine. So B and C, these are vitamins we can take without worrying about toxicity levels. And these require regular intake because we get rid of them, basically. So we just want to make sure we're getting all that. Examples of B vitamins, does anyone know any? There's one up there. So biotin is one, then thiamine, folic acid, all those ones. Functions in our body: it helps produce energy, it helps our immune system, and it helps production of our red blood cells. Fat-soluble vitamins, these are A, D, E, and K. They dissolve in fat and oils. They are stored in our liver and our fatty tissue. And then these are the ones that can build up to a toxic level. I heard about someone, they were taking those vitamin D where they give you 50,000 IU. They were taking that pretty frequently. Not good. Always consult your doctor. And absorption is enhanced with dietary fat. So taking a supplement with food will help it absorb better. Functions of fat-soluble vitamins are they help our eyes, our vision. We all heard of vitamin A and carrots, right? Bone health, antioxidant activity, and it helps with blood clotting. So roles of calcium in bone health. Calcium is a major component of our bones and teeth. 99% of our body's calcium is in our bones and in teeth. It provides structural strength and hardness. So without the calcium, we lose strength in our bones, and that's why fractures happen. And they're required for remodeling and maintenance of our bones. Roles of vitamin D: enhances calcium absorption in our intestines, so that's why we recommend taking them together. It helps regulate calcium and phosphorus levels in our blood, supports bone mineralization, I can't talk today, prevents rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. And that's just bone softening. So how do they work together? So calcium is our building block and vitamin D is the facilitator. Without sufficient vitamin D, only 10 to 15% of dietary calcium is absorbed. So that's not too much. Vitamin D ensures that calcium from food and supplements can enter the bloodstream, and together they maintain bone density and prevent bone-related diseases. Consequences of deficiency, I know we talked about a few. With low calcium, we have weak, brittle bones and increased risk of fracture. Low vitamin D is poor calcium absorption, bone softening, and increased fall risk. And these long-term deficiencies can lead to osteoporosis and skeletal deformities. There's some sources, so calcium, dairy products, leafy greens, fortified foods like cereal, almonds, and vitamin D, the best sources of sun. It's hard with all this rain. So fatty fish is a good example to get. Mackerel, salmon, sardines, those are just a few. Yeah. So anything that you would, yeah, with some fat in it. Fortified milk and orange juice have vitamin D and supplements. But again, consult your doctor, please. So recommendations, we want to combine dietary intake with regular weight-bearing exercises. Mike's going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this. Consider supplements if dietary intake or sun exposure is inadequate. And remember to speak to your doctor before adding in anything. We want to make sure there's no issues with, some people have kidney stones. We just want to make sure we're not having too much calcium, and medication interactions we want to worry about. So it doesn't hurt to ask your doctor before taking a supplement. And I just put the recommendations up there. As we get older, we do need a little bit more. So definitely ask your doctor about it if you feel like you're not getting enough. So why bone health matters. Bones support movement, protect organs, and store minerals. Bone loss increases with age, especially after 30, and especially women who go through menopause, who are going through menopause. And osteoporosis affects 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over 50. And I just put this little chart here just to show the peak bone mass and where we want to make sure that we're getting our calcium and vitamin D, especially as we get older, because it does drop. Michael.
Yeah, so I'm going to chat a little bit about this. So, weight-bearing activities, right? So when we're thinking of exercises and activities, weight-bearing activities have been studied for years and years on how they're, what happens is when you're going through weight-bearing, when you think of weight-bearing, you're putting weight through the ground, you're doing squats, you're getting up out of a chair, you're doing stairs. Those are just quick examples of weight-bearing activities, but that stimulates bone growth. You have cells within your bones that react to compound pressures being put into them, and then that stimulates bone growth, which helps our bone density. So how many of you here had gone for a bone density in the last 5 years? And hopefully it was all okay. Some of them might be a little low. Women, I expect to have an issue where they're asked to supplement a little bit more with a certain type of, supplement. And that's not uncommon. But what we see a lot of is it's not being picked up early enough. And you'll see a lot of the senior centers years ago started with crazy Zumba classes and all these different type of dance and step routines, because they're starting to realize more and more that this is an activity that can be done that helps bone growth. Do you have a question?
So
Yes.
you ask your doctor for bone density, or just you recommend it to you?
So that's a great question. So it was, would you have to ask your doctor for the test? So most of our electronic medical record and documentation, they're built in to show age-appropriate screenings coming up. So that you should be being told by your physician that it's time for a bone density. And they have age-appropriate screening times for you, just like you have for mammo. Guys have a prostate, colorectal exams. These are all what they call preventative care screenings that you should be going for. So you can ask for one. Usually they're starting to prescribe them over the age of 40 for women. It's not uncommon to have one sooner, specifically if you've had an injury and it took a long time to heal from that injury. Well,
Possibly.
it could be if they suspected a deficiency in something.
Yeah.
So, but that's a great question to ask your provider. Yeah. So, just thinking of so I mentioned weight-bearing exercises, right? So different types. So you have your high impact, which is like jogging, jumping, aerobics. These produce greater force into the bones. Those are your high impact. And then you've got low impact, which are like dancing, swimming, exercises that are, a little more gentle, but equally effective. They're just not so hard on you. And then finally, you have what we call resistance training, which is if you're using resistive bands, if you're doing body weight exercises, or if you're actually producing a force using a weight. So anything that's resistive, that's going to put a stress on the bone. That's going to cause the bone to react and stimulate bone growth. Okay. When you get into weight bearing, I mentioned these a little bit in the past, but thinking of exercise examples. So we have walking, dancing, stair climbing, squats and lunges, heel raises. So just to give you an example, that's just a nice couple walking on the beach, enjoying some outdoor activity. These are clearly dance moves that I am not familiar with, but this is, this is like back in the day when I took wedding dance classes, a little Travolta there. And then we've got, someone doing stair climbing, right? This doesn't have to be you're out in the park running stairs like guys do at the NFL football stadiums. Just doing the stairs, the activity of getting that weight into your bones will be super beneficial. This is a gentleman just doing body weight squats, so just standing there and doing some free leg squats. You would be surprised. 2 sets of 10 once a day will have a huge improvement in your strength and your comfort level getting out of a chair after just 2 weeks, okay? This gentleman here is just doing a standing heel raise. It's just coming up off your heels. Again, it's engaging your ankle muscles, and it's engaging your calf muscles. As we age, we lose what's called ankle strategy. When I did PT here for 20 years at Griffin, we saw a lot of men and women that were over a certain age that had some balance issues, and it was usually because they were afraid they were going to fall. They didn't have a good ankle strategy. They didn't have good proprioception of the feeling of the ground coming up through their feet. And heel raises is an excellent activity for that. And then finally, we have jumping rope here. I think there's one more. Now, I don't want to ask how many people still jump rope, but it's not as hard as you think. And again, you don't have to have a rope. You can just sit there and do 30 seconds. Honestly, like we don't have the coordination that we need to, go through the rope. But, and there's a lot of guys at the gym they'll throw in a jump roping activity after they've done a main exercise. So let's say the guy did some back rows. He did his set of 10, then he went over to the corner and he jumped rope for 45 seconds. All that's doing is keeping his heart rate going, but it's a great weight bearing activity. And then finally, we talked about just weight training. That's just using a weight to add resistance to the skeletal system, okay? It could be a 2-pound weight. You think about this, a can of beans, 16-ounce can, 16 ounces is a pound. The bigger can of sauce, right? That could be almost 2 pounds. You can get really creative, and there's a lot of things on the internet you can just pull an easy exercise off of that will go a long way. I'm going to turn it back over to Becca for the conclusion here. Go ahead, Becca.
So basically, we want to make sure we're getting vitamin D and calcium, sufficient amounts, and we want to make sure we're getting that from food sources, but if we can't get enough or get enough sunlight, that's when we want to supplement. But again, ask your doctor. And then weight-bearing exercises are really important. I really like the one where you just jump. Like, I've always thought about that.
I mean, and most people do not jump rope simply because they're afraid number one, they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
They're going to trip themselves.
I'm scared I'm going to fall.
You're going to fall.
That's my thing.
Right? And believe me, I've tried the heavier rope. I've tried the little skinny string that's got weight to it. I've tried the lighter version. There's a lot of coordination and timing that you have to go into it. And sure, I'd like to pretend that I can go on one leg and do count, but I can still look like I'm doing it just without a jump rope.
Yes.
So it can definitely be done. Yeah. And you can do it in 30-second intervals. You can cut it down to a 15-second interval and then 30 minutes of rest, which would be a 2-to-1 ratio if you think about it. But the point is your bones need to be stimulated with an activity. Yeah. Whether it's you using your body weight to do an exercise, walking, doing stairs. I mean, I know a lot of people that avoid stairs because they're afraid of the arthritis in their knees.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a couple steps at a time. But again, if it's that bad, then it really should be something you're addressing. But, they do have supplements, according to your doctor, and they're not all FDA regulated, but they've been shown in studies to help with bone density and things like, glucosamine, chondroitin, Red Sea krill pills. I mean, there's all types of things out there. We're not advising you to try those, but there are studies out there that suggest some of this may be beneficial. So.
Yep. And prevention starts early. So as soon as you do is the best time because it's a lifelong battle. We're always trying to make sure that we're getting enough nutrients in our food, making sure we have like our meal today. There's a lot of different things in here, so we get a lot of different nutrients and vitamins. It's gonna be good.
And I will put a plug in for our resource center at Griffin. So if you ever are at Griffin, we have a resource library to the left when you walk into the main hospital. There are two very, very smart, intelligent, and eager librarians there that would love to get an article. If you've ever wanted to get access to something and say you wanted to look up, how important is weight-bearing activities in women over the age of 50, postmenopausal. She would have something for you in a day. There's tons of things out there. Just be mindful when you're Googling things because sometimes the evidence isn't really credible.
Yes.
But if you look at a good website, a .org or something,
.gov,
Journal of Medicine, there's the JAMA, there's the ones that, the JOPS, which is a Journal of Bariatric, and I can't remember all the acronyms for them, but these are like evidence-based peer-reviewed articles that have a lot of backing to them that really discuss what we're chatting about. And we don't want to, there's so much research out there that suggests that weight-bearing activities and activity for people over 50 is just that more important. And there are statistics out there that correlate for every 6 months of activity or so, it increases your lifespan based on the type of activity you're doing. So there's a direct correlation to mortality rates for people that do exercise and people that don't. It's crazy, but I don't want to sound grim, but you all look healthy and you all look active, so I expect you out there. Give me 10 laps
Yes.
right now. No.
Well, I want to make a goal. Everyone has to do one of these weight-bearing exercises, including me. I'm going to start this jump roping thing.
Okay.
And next month, we're going to check in with each other.
Yeah,
okay?
so if you guys choose to join us, that's a great interlude into our final thing here. So.
Yeah.
So every month, a lot of people have been coming to our events here. So we try to do these twice a month. Sometimes we get in 3 a month. With the summer, we might slow down just a tad because we do have people vacationing. But we try to do a different topic when we host these. So taking Becca up on her thing, if you want to join us next month for our topic,
Please check in on me.
I will definitely remember this. I'm going to say, so how'd that jump roping thing go? And I will come back and tell you that I did 100 body weight squats.
Okay.
And then I did single leg
A day,
squats.
right?
No. Maybe every other. I can commit to every other. Okay, so does anyone have any questions for Becca before we turn it over to Chef Mike Rizzio?
Yes.
We have one question.
The multivitamins, it has the
So people online can hear you as well.
So the multivitamin, does that have the vitamin D in it? Because I know that, I think they said the multivitamins, you can't take calcium with it or something like that, right?
So with the bariatric, there is some other things going on. Do you take a Vita
Yes,
Fusion?
I take calcium separate and the multivitamins separate. But they said like 2 hours after.
Yeah.
But the multivitamin has the vitamin D in it. Because
Yeah.
I haven't read it anyway.
Yeah.
Does?
Yeah, it should. Yeah. Most multivitamins have a little bit of everything. And then if you go get your vitamin D tested and it's low, the doctor would probably prescribe like a higher volume just for a little bit and then like a maintenance dose just to keep the vitamin D level at a good level.
So with you having the bariatric procedure in your past, you would want to make sure that they're happy with your current vitamin D levels, right? So I think what Becca was saying is like an average multivitamin, I'm going to make up 200 IUs of vitamin D. He may feel that that's not enough for you. So he may say, in addition to your daily multivitamin, here's another vitamin D supplement that's going to give you another 500 IUs.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah.
But that would be something prescribed by the provider for that.
Yeah, recommended.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Chef Mike Rizzio. Oh, the applause.
Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of you back.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you very much for coming. One of the things that I'm going to have Becca do as I go here, she talked a lot about different vitamins and nutrients that's in a lot of fruits, vegetables, and things. So we have a variety of this. So as we go through it, if you could just step in and kind of talk about each of the things, and what it provides. Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't do the research on, as far as what they're getting by eating different fruits, different vegetables.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a very straightforward, kind of simple prep. We're going to start with a saute pan, just get that warmed up, and we're also going to start with a saucepan. And the starch in this is going to be quinoa today. So this can also be changed out for quinoa, farro, kamut, any of the grains of your choosing, but today's going to be quinoa. We have a little saucepan going, just a splash of olive oil, maybe a teaspoon. We're going to let that warm up, and we're going to get our quinoa right in. And we're just going to toast it a little bit. I really like to toast all of my grains. It kind of brings out any natural oils, kind of helps with the aromatic part of it, and it also kind of gives you a little nutty flavor in the grain. So this is something that just low heat. I don't know if you guys can see that, but here, just a little oil, get that together, and you can kind of forget about it for a little bit. That's just on really low heat.
Is he gonna change the TVs?
Oh, she did. Okay.
Can I change the TV?
So in a second here, you guys will see this. And I'll have it in the front under the camera for you. So that's just going to toast for a second there.
So quinoa has calcium in it.
There you go.
But the quinoa wasn't cooked before. It's just
No, yeah, he's toasting it
Yeah,
first.
so we're
and
gonna
then, yeah.
we're gonna
so
cook
it
it.
didn't have to be cooked.
No. Typically in the grocery stores and stuff, you're gonna get it dry. I don't think I've ever seen it cooked, but you, a small
Well, I
1
didn't know
pound.
if you had to do a step before that.
Oh no. This is
Yeah,
just
right from the bag.
raw, dried quinoa. Just a little olive oil. We're gonna toast that up. And in the meantime, I cut some onions, and we're gonna have our saute pan, and we can go pretty high on this. We're sauteing, so it's gonna be a higher flame. We want it to saute, not boil. So we're looking for a little caramelization on things. Right now, it's gonna be onions and some mushrooms. So ahead of time, I did cook the mushrooms. You can cook them separate. I like to cook the things separately because if you crowd one pan, the waters come out. Onions have a lot of water in them. Mushrooms have a lot of water in them. So I like to cook them separate, and then right at the last second, just bring those together. The onions, we can just kind of sweat them out. And as soon as you see a little bit of color on them, we can just go right in with some mushrooms. I think there's the volume. Any kind of mushroom is good. These are just button mushrooms. I leave the stems on. And size-wise, if you don't really like mushrooms, you can cut them smaller, right? So it kind of, the mouthfeel, some people don't like the squishy of the onion, or I'm sorry, the mushroom. So you can cut them smaller, so you're still getting the nutrients from it, but you don't necessarily have to deal with that, awkward texture. So we're going to let that cook. Again, that's on high heat, and that's going. We also have some spinach. I chopped up some tomatoes. These can be cherry tomatoes, your garden tomatoes, whatever your favorite is, you can use that. I brought some golden prunes, which are plums, right? Dried plums. These ones are golden, but you can use regular prunes, anything that you find that you have at home or the grocery store you want to try and experiment. That's good. What are we
Calcium.
getting out of that?
Calcium.
A lot of calcium.
Yep.
All right.
And the spinach.
Mike, I did get a question
Yeah.
on Facebook. They want to know what kind of oil you used for the mushrooms, and does it matter what kind of mushrooms you use for this?
Right. So oils, we're sauteing. So if you're going to use olive oil, it's a little bit better for you. Keep it on a lower flame, maybe like medium, but just keep an eye on it. If you get olive oil too hot, it's going to burn. You're going to have that little burnt taste. But it is something that you can cook this with. You can use a higher smoke point oil, something like a sunflower oil, avocado oil, those things. And you're also getting some nutrients out of something like an avocado oil. But olive oil, you can just keep an eye on it because it has a lower smoke point. As far as the mushrooms go, it's your choice. These are buttons, like I said, but you can use the portobellos, the creminis, oyster mushrooms, anything like that. Everything's interchangeable. So, the quinoa is just toasting a little bit. and you're really just looking for the smell of it. So same thing if you guys toast rice or anything like that. It's as soon as you smell that little nutty flavor, you're good to go. Quinoa is very simple. Just like I cook rice, I cover with water, basically the first digit on your finger. So if this is the quinoa, I put my finger and then water just up until the first digit. Okay, that is a pretty good starting point for cooking it. That can come up right to a boil. As soon as it comes up to a boil, you can turn it all the way down to low or even off, depending on how much you're doing. If you're doing just enough for one portion, you can turn it off and then just cover it. Leave it there for a half an hour, let the steam cook. You might have to flip it one time just to make sure that the stuff in the middle is exposed. But this comes up to a boil, then either covered or even saran wrap foil, anything like that, or even just take a pot, put it over the top. All that works. Boil, 20 minutes later, that's done. Mushrooms and onions are cooking. I have some quinoa already cooked in the back here. So for you guys to see. So it starts with these little pearls, as you saw, and they open up and they actually look like little corkscrews. So if you don't know how to cook them and you don't know what it looks like when it's done, you'll actually see like these little tails come out, and they'll kind of fluff up, just like kind of similar to a rice. So that's the quinoa part. The mushrooms and onions are almost done here. And all of this comes together pretty quickly. If you wanted to prep this out for a few days and try different vegetables and add things in at a later time, cook a big pot of quinoa, put it off into a deli container or Tupperware or something like that, and then you can just pull out as you need it. So in the morning when we're doing breakfast, the dish we're going to do today would be a good breakfast dish. Pull out a little quinoa, throw all your vegetables into a pan, add the quinoa, toss it, fry your egg. Super simple.
Mike, when we're speaking of quinoa, is there something in particular that you can relate it to that we use at Griffin, right? So we do a lot with quinoa.
Sure.
We do a lot with barley, right?
Sure.
We've tried freekeh, we've tried different grains, but specifically with quinoa, is there another example commonly, like a cold quinoa? Can we do a quinoa salad, a topping?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ramon on the salad bar uses quinoa in a lot of the prepared salads that he does. And then also we do like a harvest bowl or the grain bowls on saute. So we'll do a hot version with a protein, vegetables, some kind of sauce. We'll serve that over on the hot side. And then at the same time, you fold this to any of your vegetables or any of your salads. Like even if you just put this into your cold salad and just mixed it in as a texture thing, you're gonna get a bunch of the nutrients from it. And it's kind of interchangeable, however you feel like.
I wanted them to speak on it just because it's so flexible, right? It's one of those, killer grains that just go a long way. You can do it, we always talk about being creative in the kitchen, mixing things up, throwing things together, seeing what you get. Quinoa is one of those things that you can just do so much with. So I wanted that. I see it at the hospital all the time. And it's just a great grain to mix up with and do a lot with. So.
And it's a great replacement just for rice. If you're using rice in the dish, you can just supplement this instead of using rice.
Yeah.
It's a good option instead of white rice.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say one more thing. As you talked about the Mediterranean grain bowl, we've done that here in front of an audience where we did combine it with chicken. You can pick. We did it with tofu. But it's so flexible, and the Mediterranean grain bowl, or there's different versions of it. We have it sometimes at our saute station, and it's one of those items that are constantly selling out. And we try to incentivize some of the employees on Tuesdays to say, hey, go get this extra, get this grain bowl for instead of a cheeseburger or pizza, and we'll give you an extra 15% off just for choosing that item. We do it for our employees because we believe in trying to keep them a little healthier. So why not incentivize them to pick a healthier option than something less healthy? So. Yes, for Tasty Tuesday special. You say you know Mike, and I will give you a discount.
This is
They're gonna say,
recorded.
what mic?
That's Mike. That's the trick. They're gonna come in and say, "Which Mike told you that?" Because there's more than one. But you wouldn't go wrong. They always say the cafeteria at Griffin's the best kept non-restaurant in the valley
Yeah.
because the food is truly phenomenal. I mean, I eat there every day. I can't.
I second that.
Yeah. So.
So we just, I just added some fresh tomatoes and a little bit of spinach. So that kind of wraps up the saute portion of this. So at this point, if that's one of the mixes that you wanted to do, you could just take this, put it on a sheet pan, cool it down. That would be one option. If you wanted to add zucchini as a second option or asparagus or something like that, make another batch of all the veggies, put that off to the side. So now we can have, you know, nutrient-based and filled items, and we don't have to eat the same thing every single day. So that's done. Magic of TV says quinoa is done. So for this, that can go right in. This one saute pan, size-wise, is going to feed about 10 people. So that's also something to keep into consideration. You know, especially something like quinoa goes a long way, a little bit. A 1 pound bag, something like this size, turns into quite a few portions. We're going to finish it right at the end with a little bit of fresh lemon juice. And we're going to take our prunes. And I would just drop this to low. Season it with maybe a little granulated garlic. You could use fresh garlic instead, and just a little bit of salt and pepper. If you're looking to stay with low sodium, you can exclude that. If you have something like the Mrs. Dash or another low sodium option, completely interchangeable. And at this point, the residual heat of the pan, that's done. So you could even make this ahead of time, make all your mixes, make your different options, and then just put these into your deli containers, your Tupperware, and pull them out as you need them. The great part about also something like this is that quinoa freezes really well. So if you put it in the freezer and you wanted to grab it for lunch or breakfast, take it, put it in the microwave as you were getting ready for work or whatnot in the morning, and it's a quick, easy fry an egg, and you're on your way for breakfast. And we're not stopping at a fast food place or just the quick and easy option. So that's that. We're going to fry up an egg. This recipe calls, the way it's written, for a sunny side up egg, but we're going to fry it just a little butter in the pan and just let that do its thing. And to top it off, I have a little avocado. Becca, avocados.
So there is some calcium in it, or vitamin D, like a tiny bit of vitamin D, but there is a healthy fat, so there's things that help us absorb the vitamin D and calcium. But this recipe is actually from the International Foundation, or the International Osteoporosis Foundation, and there's good calcium and vitamin D in the whole dish. There's like 110 milligrams of calcium and like 40 IU of vitamin D.
pH enter in terms of like lemon juice helps with
Not necessarily, no. Just adds a little freshness. Yeah.
So just to reiterate your question for people that are online, I think you asked, was the lemon juice added for calcium or just to lower the acidity or the pH of the dish, right? Was that kind of where you were going with that? So Michael, aside from the flavor of the lemon in it, was it to give it some less acidity or to add a pH?
Yeah,
or?
so I really like citrus or any sort of acid to just kind of finish off a lot of dishes. I make this salad that is just super simple, right? It's iceberg lettuce with a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, and some really, really thin sliced onions. That people go crazy for it. It's the simplest salad you've ever eaten in your life, but they go crazy for it that way. I did it one time because I read about it in a recipe and I saw something on a show, adding a little bit of lemon juice to that, even though the vinegar and the acid in that, but just the fresh really pops like the flavor in your mouth. So it keeps your taste buds kind of saying, oh, this is not just a boring little salad, right? Just that little bit kind of adds a lot. There's something to be said for adding fresh lemon juice as far as, you know, vitamins, minerals and whatnot, but a little bit of acid at the end of any dish kind of brightens up the flavors of quite a bit. So that would be.
And even, I mean, most of us now, if we go to a restaurant, there's usually an arugula and onion salad somewhere on the menu. I used to work for an Italian restaurant in Waterbury. We used to always have an arugula salad with a little bit of goat cheese, red onion sliced thin, and fresh lemon juice over the top. And you'd be surprised, it didn't need a dressing. It was just a little salt, pepper, and then lemon juice. And it was amazing. So, but you're going to get vitamin C from most of your citrus fruits and stuff. So.
Yeah.
What do you say, Michael?
We're just going to plate it up.
Okay. So as Chef Mike is going to start plating some of this for everyone in the audience live to taste, are there any questions for Chef Mike that I can help with before we go off the stream? Oh, we have a question.
On the quinoa, so you didn't have to do anything to prep it. Everything I read says to rinse it first.
Sure.
Is it necessary?
Does it say why? Have you heard an explanation of why? So
No, it goes through my strainer. So
the
I
pro.
rinse that.
Sure. So a lot of people.
So Chef, I'm going to reiterate her question. So her question was, do you really need to rinse the quinoa before you go ahead and put it in the pot or not?
I would say that's really preference. You know, if you ask my grandmother, everything gets rinsed, right? It'll also help. What it really does is it helps when the final product comes out. If you rinse rice, quinoa, farro, anything, if you rinse that beforehand, it's going to get some of the starch, the natural starch that's on it. Take that off. It's also not a bad idea to do it if something happened during the manufacturing process of packaging it, something like that. As far as the cooking portion of something like quinoa, no. If I was going to say the farro or rice, yes, because that starch, the difference of nice fluffy rice, farro, compared to that clumped up, right? We've all seen that. So that would be the culinary portion of that, is rinsing off all of that. I would even, a lot of the times I toast the grains and then I rinse them right after that, you know? But that's if I'm doing big volumes, right? For this, you could just rinse it at home, but it's really about the starch and getting some of that extra starch off. Yeah, of course.
All right, Mike, thanks for answering that question. Any other questions for Michael here? So we have someone saying they normally soak the quinoa first. Does it float afterwards, or does it sink to the bottom? You think it absorbs water, Mike?
I really think it's about the care that you put into the cooking process. Could you soak it? Absolutely. It'll actually take time off the cooking process if you soak that.
Because think about it, when it's in the pan,
down.
he sautés it first to give it that toastiness. Then he puts the water in to give it its volume, if you will. So if you're giving it a little volume head start prior, it'll just cut down the cooking time. So it's not necessarily wrong to do, but if it works for you, then by all means, yeah. So let's all try it Mike's way. We got to do it like Mike.
Very forgiving process. Quinoa is, as soon as it comes up to a boil, you can turn it down low and cover it and leave it for 10 minutes. And it's very, very forgiving. It also cooks pretty quickly. And if you go in you're like, oh, I think it's done, and you go to flip it, and you're like, no, this is not done. The middle's still raw. You can put it right back on, and it's not going to mess with the cooking process of it. So just a fried egg on top, a little sliced avocado. That's 1/4 of an avocado, and that's the dish. 2 pots, 3 if you're doing an egg on the side, but you could also fry the egg in here after you take out all the veggies. So cleanup is also minimal, which is a big part of cooking breakfast in the morning, right?
All right. So we're going to wrap up the stream. I want to say thank you to Becca and Mike for a great presentation. And just to circle back to our events, you can find these on griffinhealth.org/events. These videos, when we stream them, we save them on our YouTube page. So just youtube.com, in the search area, you just put in Griffin Health, and then right below that, there's a little line that says videos. If you click that videos, it drops down all of our videos that we've done here, and many of them end with the recipe card on them. I know you have one in person here, but people that couldn't make it, the recipe is on that live stream. All right? So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for those that watched on Facebook, and we are going to sign off. Have a great night.
Yeah.